and your husband discover that running was going to be the thing that really sang to your kids?
You know, looking back on it now, as I said before, I just never said no to anything because they can't tell me what they like. They can't even tell me if they're hurt or hungry. Both of them are nonverbal. So for us to be able to make decisions for them, it's a huge responsibility and it's very difficult. And so as I said before, I just want them to be happy. That's my dream. That's my goal. And so when we had them in various different activities, I knew that they enjoyed some of those things, and not, some more than others. But when we, just reading their faces, looking at and seeing what their reactions are, um, we had taken them for the very first time to see a race, to meet some of the running coaches. And when we took them to the race, it was in Oyster Bay on Long Island, and we stood at this finish line as the runners were coming into the finish, and the music was pounding, and people were clapping and cheering, and it was such a wonderful atmosphere and a happy atmosphere, and very contagious. And so we were standing by the finish line, and they were both Alex and Jamie were just bouncing up and down on their feet and watching, one after the other coming in, different runners coming in. And it was just so exciting. And as we were watching them, we just, we saw this look, we saw this kind of, look on their faces of interest,
Yeah.
they looked happy. And when we took them for the very first time for their very first run a week later, with these two volunteer runners, they just they came around, they left our site, they ran around a lake, and when they came back, they were just beaming. And they just had a look, both of them had a look on their faces that we hadn't seen before. And what I would tell other parents is, my experience has been, especially the frustration that I have in not being able to communicate with my sons, and for them to be able to tell me what they like, what they don't like, is just really just explore as much as you can, which I'm sure many parents do, and just keep exploring and keep asking people and keep networking with other parents and find out about um, activities and groups and different organizations that offer different types of things that I never really expected or never thought about running. I'm not a runner, from the past. My husband wasn't either, and so it really wasn't something on our radar. But I didn't want to say no to it because I didn't know if it was going to be something that they enjoyed. And for us, it's really become the focus of our lives. We revolve everything around running.
It's
It's
amazing.
3 or 4 times a week, and everything else kind of has to fit into our running schedule.
And I mentioned before that your
So
family has been through a lot of challenges. You mentioned your husband is managing MS, that you
yes,
have gone through breast cancer. You've got two children on the autism spectrum that are nonverbal and require daily care,
right.
and that's not going to change. That's a lot of reality,
Hmm.
and with all of that, you guys have persevered and said, no, we're gonna feed this passion with these two boys, and joined in so that it has become the family affair. And all of that, I have to say to you, you're so courageous and such an inspiration. I think a lot of people would be impressed by that. But then your boys were running and you were running. Your husband was running with one of them for the Boston Marathon, where there was the bombing, and
Yes.
and your one son was very profoundly affected by this. Talk to us a little bit about how you got through that day and how you managed to persevere after that, because I think most people, if they'd gotten as far as you did, would have said after that, okay, done. But you've continued on. So give us a lesson in perseverance. Tell us what the day was like and how you've gotten through.
Okay. Well, the Boston Marathon in 2013 was my son's. Let me see. It was their second Boston Marathon, but maybe about their sixth marathon in general. And I was sitting at the finish line in the first row of the grandstands, and my son Alex, who's very fast, crossed the finish line in 3 hours and 23 minutes. And we were cheering, we were excited. It was wonderful, of course. And so I left the grandstands with some friends that I was with, and we met their coaches in a family meeting area, which is, maybe a couple of blocks away. And as we were celebrating and taking pictures, it was a little chilly. And so before going back to the grandstands, which is what we always do after a race, first Alex finishes, then we go back to the grandstands and we watch for his brother Jamie to cross the finish line. I decided to stop at our hotel, which is right on the corner, to pick up a sweatshirt for Alex because it was chilly. So when we got to the hotel room, I grabbed the sweatshirt. We were about to leave the hotel to go back to the grandstands to watch his brother, and that's when we heard the explosions. And we looked out the window, and we were able to see smoke and fire trucks and a lot of commotion. And my son Alex really didn't understand why we couldn't leave. He started getting very anxious and upset. He wanted to leave to go back to the finish line like he's used to, and I couldn't reach my husband. We didn't know what was going on. We turned on the television. We were able to see what was happening really on the television. We weren't able to leave the hotel room or the hotel, actually, at that matter. It was a complete lockdown. And it took a while before I was able to reach my husband by text. We weren't able to speak to one another because the lines were down. And what happened with he was running with my son Jamie and with another coach, and they were taken off the course at mile 22 and brought to a church where they were in lockdown. They were not able to leave. And meanwhile, they had, they were cold, they had no food, they had no, clothing, money, ID, whatever. And they were there, and they were Red Cross brought supplies in for all the runners, and it was quite harrowing, as you can imagine.
Yeah, and it would have been harrowing for anyone, but
right.
for somebody who's on the autism spectrum and has sensory issues, it's the worst possible thing imaginable.
Right. Well, for my son, yeah, my son Jamie in particular, because he has another condition known as catatonia, it was even worse for him because he was really just surrounded by the chaos and his fear of the unknown, really, and he was unable, obviously, to communicate any of that, and it was extremely traumatic for him. And so finally, they were able to get back to our hotel room many, many, many hours later. And I was just so happy to see both of them. Obviously, we were just so scared of, the whole event that was unraveling. And in terms of, where we go from here, he was so traumatized by the events, by the sounds of the sirens and the police cars and all of that. We couldn't even speak on the way home. That's in the car. That's how traumatized he was. And it took quite a while for Jamie to really be able to be in crowds again and to be surrounded by noise and hearing a siren outside and not getting upset. But we felt that it was important for him to be able to get back to where he was and back into the running arena, doing the thing that he enjoys doing. So we slowly got him back in a short race, a 5K, and maybe a little bit longer, and in quiet, and had him wear an iPod. And slowly but surely, we were able to get him back, and he has been back. Not back to where he was before that, but back to a certain point where he's able to run again, and he's able to run in marathons. And he actually ran 2 other Boston marathons since that day.